to Behind the Gavel. I'm Linda Bear,
And I'm Jackie McKinney from Hartford 2000.
and we're here to fill you in on what you might expect to see and hear at the council meeting this evening. As you may know, there will be a public comment period at 6 o'clock, and then the council meeting itself will start at 7. So we'll be with you for about 20 minutes, and then you can tune into the public comment period where people can talk about anything they want that has to do with city government. So we have 28 items on the agenda this evening. I heard you mention something about the poet laureate.
Yes, it's exciting having a poet laureate, not being a poet myself.
No, me either.
I can appreciate poetry. And I was reading this earlier today, and I thought his first job should be write a poem about City Hall. We get many visitors in City Hall, and they are just amazed at this gorgeous place.
Right.
And I even have visitors who are confused. Are they in City Hall or the Wadsworth Athenaeum? That really is.
Yes.
So we do have a special place
It is
that
special.
I think deserves a poem. So
I think that would be good.
yeah.
And this is the first poet laureate that we've had here in Hartford. And his name is Frederick Douglass Knowles II.
And a very elegant name.
I
at
would
that.
say
Yes.
so, yep.
Impressive.
And he evidently shared his first poetry ever here in Hartford some years ago.
Okay.
And now he's come back to be the poet laureate. It's a term of 3 years. And the Commission on Cultural Affairs carried out the process of soliciting people who might be interested and then asking for their applications, reviewing their applications, and then making a recommendation to the mayor. And the mayor has now forwarded that recommendation to the council. He agreed with the Commission on Cultural Affairs. So the council may refer it to committee so they can perhaps meet Mr. Knowles. But I did take a look at his some information about him online. He's been published many times.
Oh, that's
Wrote
wonderful.
a book of poetry, but also has been in anthologies and magazines. And I understand he's also in other areas of art.
Oh, okay.
So we'll hopefully...
Multimedia.
Multimedia.
Yes,
that's
how's
it,
that?
yeah. So that's a real positive thing, I think, for always glad to emphasize positive things here on the agenda. Another positive thing might be that there are 6 items on this agenda that approve acceptance of grants, and all of those grants add up to $662,000. So that's not a huge amount when you think about our $500 million budget, but these pay for a lot of our social services, which I think often don't have as much money as they had in the past.
Right. Particularly during our trying times.
Right, exactly.
So
Yeah. Some of them, one interesting one was there was a competitive process that the Walt Disney Corporation and the National Parks and Recreation Commission, Association.
yeah.
They ran a competition, what park project should they fund, and they chose one in Keeney Park, which is called Hike It Out. I guess you could
Okay.
hike it in too, but
Okay. But you can.
yeah, learn about hiking and hopefully get an interest in it and a love for it, so that kids and adults might do more hiking and get out in
And there's
nature.
a lot of woods in there.
There are, yeah.
So that would be a great place.
It is
yeah.
a good place.
Yeah.
I try always to go there in the fall
Yeah.
because the leaves are just amazing, the colors out there at Katy Park. What else have you noticed that we should
Well,
maybe
we're
talk
still
about?
working on the drones,
Oh, right.
but there's one odd thing in the drones. I mean, I guess I would support drones. Everybody else. I mean, we have to stay up to date with technology.
Yeah, right.
But there is one interesting part of this, and these are my words. before the police can use a drone, they need to get a warrant from the court. That makes sense. But the other part of it is, and they must obtain advance written consent by the person who will be the subject of the information collection. In other words, from the perp.
Right. Yes.
I'm not. When I read that, I wasn't sure what to do with it, and maybe I just don't understand.
Yep, maybe we're not, I had the same question. Maybe there'll be some more discussion either tonight or at one of the committee meetings.
Yeah, to get
It
that
does
clear.
seem a little odd
Yes.
or a little impossible.
Yeah, it's like, oh. But yes, we are keeping up with the rest of the
We
world.
are, we are.
going to have drones, which is very good.
There are two items on the agenda that deal with drones. One is an ordinance that kind of sets forth all the ways in which they can be used. And then there's a resolution as well that calls for the police department to make regular reports
Okay.
on how, pardon me, how they've used the drone, what the outcomes were. And I think that's important. People want to know, how are these drones going to be used? Or
And I
have
think
they
that
been
makes
used?
sense with new technology that we're constantly reviewing it, both from the perspective of the police and the city,
Yep.
but also from the citizens too.
Yep, yep.
So,
And it may be that the warrant and the permission, maybe it's an either or. Maybe it's a warrant for someone who's perceived to be a perpetrator.
yeah.
And it's permission from you and I having a picnic in Keeney Park and the
Okay.
drone going over. I have no idea.
I don't either.
Don't listen to me. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, it just seems it's like, did I miss something?
Yeah, exactly. It's a question. Yep.
Stay tuned.
Right. So there's also a resolution having to do with public safety, not connected with drones, but the fire department has worked out an arrangement with the State Department of Emergency Services to be part of a statewide radio network. So right now, the fire department's radio system is just within the city.
Okay.
And normally that's okay, except that we provide assistance to other cities and other cities provide assistance to us.
Okay.
When there's mutual assistance pacts, I think they're called. So if we have a big fire, God forbid, and we need to help from Newington or somewhere else, this puts our firefighters on the same system
Frequency
with them.
then
Same
makes
frequency.
sense
Yeah.
versus
Yeah.
getting on the phone and saying,
Right. We
can
need
you
help.
send over a few trucks? Yeah.
Right, and there's no charge. It's a system that is available to all municipalities. It's just that we have to sign a memorandum of understanding, that we all understand how it works and that we're all going to be on the same page.
That makes sense because should something catastrophic happen, that will be very important.
Right, absolutely. And I think it's not just fires, but like
And the police,
events on the river.
yeah.
Those have been in need of assistance from other fire departments
Yeah,
as well.
particularly because many times it requires specialized equipment
Right.
that we probably only have one of.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Anything else interesting?
Well, there's a resolution submitted by Councilwoman Thames, Council President Thames, which asks the city administration to work with them on creating a public art program. And in particular, her interest is in what she calls dead spaces where in Hartford where there's nothing lively happening,
okay.
no business, no residence, kind of flatness.
Yeah.
And so this item was sent to committee. I think it was Planning, Economic Development, and Housing. They thought this was a good idea. And so it's back on the agenda for action. And they added a piece to the resolution saying that the administration, or asking, that the administration prepare and report back to council with a plan within 90 days. And consider mechanisms to fund a public art program through private and public development projects. So,
So it'll be entirely from the city's employees, not versus the commission doing it?
no, I think it includes anybody, but they want the mayor's office to work with them
Okay.
on putting the plan together.
Together, okay.
Yeah, so it'll be a joint effort by the council and the mayor. But I think, let's see, they say in the resolution, public art projects by local artists can activate vibrant spaces and connect communities in ways for public good. Investments in public art can have a positive bottom line economic impact. And there's an opportunity for the city to capitalize on the vibrant artist community we have here, you being one of those artists. And look at national best practices in terms of developing this public art system or project. Yeah, so that's kind of the main things that they're saying. Creativity and public art is the fabric that binds communities together.
Yes.
So I think probably most of us could agree with that.
Absolutely.
Right.
Like on top of the Bushnell, the plaza, the Bushnell Towers there, we have all the statuary up there.
Right, right.
That's a really a neat thing.
And that hasn't been there that long.
No, it hasn't, and it somehow it was there, and I said, when did that come?
Yeah, right.
So probably some of this should be a better way of promoting,
True.
so that people would know more.
So we have 1 minute left in our show. There's a resolution to bring the tree crew back to Public Works. We had an in-house tree
We really need it.
unit.
We
that,
really need it.
So I think the issue is money, of course, but that's on the agenda.
Is that a grant for that, or
No, it's just saying
Just
let's
putting
do
it back, okay.
Yeah, yep.
So
I will also mention that there is a workshop on Wednesday, September 12th, on the Freedom of Information Act. So I'm assuming that because you've tuned in here, you are interested in what's going on in the city and like information. So at the Public Library downtown this Wednesday, 5:30, come out and hear from a gentleman from the Freedom of Information Commission on how you can best get the information you need. So you want to wrap up, Jack?
yes, I just wanted another moment just to say we're through with summer, we're into fall, so we will be, the council will be meeting on the 2nd and 4th
Right.
Mondays of the month.
Right,
So we'll see you twice this month.
right. So thanks for tuning in. See you
Yes.
on the 24th.
Good night.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight at our monthly scheduled public comment. Welcome to all of you in the audience and viewing at home. We are going to get started. I just want to remind everyone that comes to speak tonight, please ensure that you state your name, address for the record. We will be providing everyone with 3 minutes. We do have a few speakers tonight, so we would just ask that people are respectful of the time and keep to their 3 minutes. But without further ado, I think we're going to get started. So starting with Dominique Valera.
Good evening. My name is Dominic Valera. I'm from 335 Capitol Avenue in Hartford, the Shell station. I am the owner of the Shell station and the subway located inside of that site. I want to talk about the overnight license that was revoked in June for our business. The decision to close the gas station convenience stores at 11:30 p.m. in our city is a loss of a vital service to our community and commuters. We feel that the decision has hurt our city and leave many of our members of our community without necessary essentials. The majority of our neighbors do not have vehicles, and we are their sole opportunity to put food on the table. Closing at 11:30, a lot of these people, get out of work, need drinks, food, put on the tables, and we are closed. Our Hartford residents are not all white-collar workers. Many of them work second and third shifts that need a place to go. We also serve the commuters of I-84 for their fueling needs. At least weekly, we see vehicles left on our lot overnight because they ran out of fuel. Our citizens of this state commute at all hours of the day in our vicinity close to I-84 East and I-84 West makes our station a very busy refueling location. As business owners of this location for the last 9 years, we have realized that the overnight hours account for 30% of our business. How would you feel if we removed 30% of your income just like that? That's how we feel. The large tax bill that the city requires is still due in full. This leaves us no choice but to cut employment. We have let 3 employees go that are Hartford residents. This is not the time to deliver our city this blow. This loss has been detrimental to our lifelong dream and investment. We understand that crime levels are up, but we feel that we are not contributing to the issue. Over the last 18 months, we have catered to 600,000 customers and have only had 200 calls to the police. The majority is loitering and panhandling. That's 0.03% of our customers are a nuisance. That's a very small number to make a decision to close us down overnight. Over the years, we have taken many steps to reduce issues at this location. We have a modern surveillance system with 22 cameras that can be viewed remotely. Our city officers commonly stop in to view footage from incidents that occur off-site. We have a standing complaint in effect for loitering. It is our company policy to offer a clean and safe environment to our customers. We are always open and inviting to any requests the Hartford Police may have. The city ordinance that you guys wrote states that police can offer a detail at our site if we have an issue. That was never offered to us. They just decided to close us down. As an investor in our community, we ask the city to invest back in us and understand the vital service we offer to our city residents and commuters. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you. Next, we have Michael Frisbee.
Thank you. Good evening. My name, for the record, is Michael Frisbee. I'm the owner of 3250 Main Street as well as 131 Buckingham Street. Thank you for having me this evening. I just wanted to come and kind of keep the issue of the 24 hours in the forefront. We're hoping that some of the city council members will help to fight for our cause and try and get us the 24-hour license. I wanted to first talk about 131 Buckingham Street. We just made a significant investment there. Hopefully some of the council members that had a chance to come over and visit and see our new store, as well as our residential units. I think that we've done an amazing job trying to lift up the city and what the vision was, and working with the planning and zoning group for that neighborhood, and try to help start the transformation. So we'd like to show that, just in the few weeks that we've been there, I think it's been a real asset for the neighborhood. A lot of the folks and the feedback we're getting from the neighbors as well as other customers, they're really pleased with us, and we're hoping that we may be able to be a central focus for them, for the neighborhood on a little bit more time, either later in the evening or even 24 hours if we could. So we want to keep that in the forefront, and hopefully you guys will have a chance to come visit us, and we'll continue to show you how well we can do in doing that. The second part of this is our operation at 3250 Main Street. I'm kind of echoing what Dominic said with regard to the Shell station. Our 3250 Main Street is now closed at 11. We were open 24 hours. We've seen in the last 2 months a decline in about 35% of our business. Dunkin' Donuts was open until 1:30, and they're a big part of our business, and now they're closed at 11, as well as the fuel and the convenience store items. I will mention that the mobile station up the street in Windsor, just over the line, is now open 24 hours, and they're doing really well, and they pay about a third of the taxes that we pay. So really, again, my point being is that we're willing to work with the city and do anything that's necessary to try to help with additional details or security. But again, I'm here this evening just to kind of put it, keep it in the forefront that we're here to try and work with you, and hopefully we'll be able to work with the mayor's office too, to try and get back to 24 hours. Happy to answer any questions if you have it.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Next, we have Waleed Omar.
Good afternoon, how are you? My name is Waleed Omar. I am part owner in 131 Buckingham Street. We have Lemon Mint Restaurant and Frisbee's Ice Cream. We are a new place located at the new Noble Station, which is Mike just spoke about. We were hoping, we actually started when we built the location there, we were under the impression that we're going to be open 24 hours. And then we found out that the new law in the city of Hartford here that you have to close at 11 o'clock. When we moved in, we saw an opportunity there in a location that we can serve state employees, everybody that works in the offices, Hartford Hospital's employees, day and night, 24/7. Everybody loves the service, the food. We serve them quality products with the best customer service. Everybody that walks in up to date is very happy and impressed, and I see a few familiar faces here that actually ask us to come in and speak on behalf of our business, because it's pretty much a big loss. Like after the investment we invested in 131 Buckingham Street, it's actually numbers are declining. It's not, well, for the night shift, we have to close at 11 o'clock. We're actually we know that we can open until like 1:30, but we can't open because the station part has to close at 11:30. Up to date, we haven't had any problems. We didn't have any trouble. So we're hoping that we can, come up to get a license to open 24 hours. That's it. Any questions?
Councilwoman Rosado.
Yes. Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
What's the address of your gas station?
131, we're a food court inside the new Noble gas station.
I just passed by there. Very nice location.
Thank you.
And you guys are open until 11?
Until 11, yeah, the store is open until 11. We're open until 11 o'clock.
And you opened there when?
We opened about 3 weeks ago.
Okay,
3 weeks ago.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Dave.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dave Yano. I live at 150 Warrenton Avenue in Hartford. I am a commissioner on the MDC. I'm also on the Veterans Commission. I'm a library retiree and a former district head of AFSCME 1716 at the Hartford Public Library. But I'm here to talk about two issues, and the first thing is I'm going to report a little bit about what's happening at MDC, because I don't think, in all the years I've lived in Hartford, which is the time from Nick Carbone and Mayor Atherton to the present, I've never heard one commissioner report back to the people on what's happening in the MDC. So you may have seen recent reports about the landfill in Hartford. Let me explain to you what's happening. I was the only commissioner who did not vote to shut off the sewer access to DEEP, the Department of Environmental and Energy of the state. The state's been using the sewers that MDC owns to get rid of the leachate and the runoff and the polluted water to go into the sewers. So the commissioners voted to shut off the sewer access. When I came back and was part of the next meeting this month and found out what they did, I said, you can't do that. And they found out that they had a legal liability. They can't shut off the sewer access because all that leachate would go right into the Connecticut River, into the Hartford North Meadows, and the residents of Hartford and the North End would suffer for it. So they have to, the MDC charges them 13 cents a gallon for sewer, and that's not a very high price. And they should be paying MDC to use the sewer. But what's more important is that the realization that they cannot allow the leachate and the runoff to go into the Connecticut River or into the surrounding groundwater. That's heavy-duty pollutants that need to be taken care of. So the MDC is now negotiating with DEEP and the OPM with the state to work out a resolution, but I think the Hartford residents should be aware of what's going on. I'm one of the few MDC commissioners that votes against things like this. I also voted for the entry of the two words public trust into the state water plan because the MDC does not create nor does it make the water that we all drink. We pay them to store it, to clean it, and to build the infrastructure. And that's necessary and that's the way it should be. But I need Hartford residents to be aware of what's happening and keep your eyes open on this particular problem. The other thing I'm here to talk about is what's happening with the library. I know you understand I've talked about this often. I feel the library has abandoned and no longer represents the neighborhoods and the residents who live in Hartford. The library seems to be more concerned with its media national brand and how it looks to the rest of the country. We should not be doing TAP program, which is the American Place. That's immigration work that should be done by the federal building. And I feel that some of the money from the library budget is being diverted to the TAP program to do immigration work. And that's not what the library is about. And we've lost over 25 union jobs, part-time and full-time, that Hartford residents could have entry-level jobs. The biggest issue, though, is that residents who live here, taxpayers who live here, have lost 3 branches within walking distance of their schools and their homes. This is an issue that is not going to go away.
Thank you. Leslie Hammond.
Leslie Hammond, 1 Linden Place. Thank you, Dave, for giving us an update about MDC, and thank you, gentlemen, for keep coming and keep talking about this. I am so confused about these gas stations. I thought it was the ones that were a problem that were going to be closed, why you would punish somebody that's opened up. And if you look at the commercial tax rate, it's quite high, and I hope you guys are going to advocate for them because they keep trying to get your attention. So a Happy New Year, Jewish New Year to anybody that celebrates. I think in the future it would be good to look at your calendar because I'm sure there are people in our city that do celebrate Rosh Hashanah. So if anybody's here that celebrates, I'm thinking about that. My theme is still transparency. The webpage is still sorely out of date. I was looking up the Police Civilian Review Board, which has been on my mind ever since the incident with Sergeant Barone. I felt like this commission could actually, be doing something with some of the, difficult times we've gone through in the last month with that news. And when I looked up to find the minutes and when they met and who was on it, it's like from 2012, 2014, and thankfully Linda Bear sent me the minutes, but if I didn't know Linda Bear or be able to ask her, I would have no idea how to get that information. So I know I sound like a broken record. For 3 years I've been talking about the webpage. I just don't, it's obvious to me that the mayor does not want the webpage to be up to date. So let's just say it like it is. He does not want the webpage to be up to date. I see on number 18, you're appointing somebody to charter revision. I would love to hear more about that, rather than hearing about somebody being appointed to it. I don't know what that means. Are we doing it? Are they going to meet? Is that something that's on the agenda? So I'm just not clear about any of that. Number 23, the NRZ strategic plan. I can tell that group put a lot of work into that, but one of the things I get really frustrated about is the NRZs seem to be the place that the city goes to check in with the neighborhood. Some are amazing groups, some, do not have the same turnout. But overall, it's a really great way to try to bring the neighborhoods together. But Hartford 2000 has zero money, and there's like no support for these NRZs. So again, let's just say it like it is. If something's important, let's make it important. If it's not important, let's not act like it is and just kind of have it limp along. That just drives me crazy. So thank you for being here, and thank you for your time.
Mark Burns. Mark Burns. Jay Stan.
Good evening, J. Stan McCauley, 77 Wadsworth Street, resident of Hartford, constituent. I've sufficiently calmed down. I can't explain why. This is the first pet peeve I've had as long as I can remember in Hartford, and it's the gas station. Because, I'm a second shift guy, and I'm trying to keep my composure. It's inconceivable to me that the gas station is being punished and closed, and it just opened. I mean, I literally watched them build that thing from the first shovel into the ground, because it is 35-second run from my house. So it is my convenience store. It's my gas station. I get my diesel car pumped up, filled there. My air, the tires that leak, and I gotta pump them up every week. I go there. I've been waiting for this place since Bill's was torn down. And it's beautiful. The kids go there and they get homemade ice cream. But when I get off my work shift, which is about 1 o'clock, and I'd like to go get that pastrami sandwich and the ice cream and all that I've been waiting for, is closed. It's got transparent windows so you can see from one side of the street all the way through it. It's a great place. It was nice enough that I felt I was going to go down there and cover the grand opening and air it. So, please do something about that. I came down to talk about a request that my elected legislative branch, my elected executive officer, and my elected Board of Education members, along with those that are appointed by the mayor, find some way to have a public meeting so that we can all see you communicate as to what's going on with the Board of Education. It seems that they don't know some of the stuff that's going on here. And that seems odd to me, considering they have half the city's budget. This is just what I've heard without mentioning names, because I seem to be able to get around and a lot of people confide in me. So I don't understand why all these elected officials can't get together in one room so that we could have a public meeting and the constituents could actually hear what's going on. Maybe this room. That'd be a great room to have a meeting. Like maybe the committee of the whole or something.
Thank you. Gannon Long.
Hey everybody, thanks for having me. My name is Gannon Long. I'm at 49 Hungerford Street. I came here today, I'm a resident, but I'm also a walking, biking, and bus riding commuter here in the city of Hartford. And I want to talk a little bit and share some information with folks about Transport Hartford and our new Road to Zero project that we'll be doing through this year. So you might have heard of Transport Hartford before. We run the Community Bicycle Center at 97 Park Street at BCCO. We're a program at the center advocating for biking, walking, transit, and multimodal transportation as part of a sustainable and socially just city and region. So Road to Zero is a year-long project. It engages youth across the city to conduct research, education, and outreach around road safety in Hartford, and I'm talking primarily around pedestrian and cyclist safety in Hartford. So within the next week or so, you're going to see some new signs popping up around the city. They are centerline crosswalk signs that increase the visibility of crosswalks. They sit on the yellow lines in the middle of the road or just next to the start of the crosswalk to increase the visibility. And studies show even seeing these signs in the road decreases driver speed by a few miles an hour because they sort of slow down worrying that they're going to hit them. There are some restrictions on where these signs can be put. They have to be put on existing crosswalks where they're already painted. And unfortunately in Hartford, particularly in North Hartford, where there is a large concentration of these types of accidents, we weren't able to put the signs in large parts of the city because they don't have that basic infrastructure of this painted crosswalk. And so I want to encourage everybody to just kind of take a look at that. Maybe we'll be able to make some progress on that this year. So we're a collaboration of the Center for Latino Progress, Blue Hills Civic Association, and the Hartford Police Explorers, and we're going to be paying youth to conduct research and outreach around road safety issues in Hartford for the next year. So if anybody's interested in learning more about it, I'd ask you to join our email list. I just put the sign-up sheet out here. You guys all have the presentations, as well as we have some copies up front if folks want them. So I'll just talk a little bit about our process. We've solicited community input, looked at different traffic data, including mapping where accidents have taken place in the city, gotten a lot of feedback in different spaces to suggest where to put them, and then the city is going to take that on through the Department of Public Works. In addition to this effort to make streets more safe in Hartford, the city is putting in speed humps, around 100 throughout the city, as you guys probably know, and then we've also got state funds coming in the spring to do another 114 side-of-the-road pedestrian crosswalk signs. So I want to thank our city engineer, Jim Ford, for working hard on that. He's also looking to reduce some speed limits, and we have some folks in development services, Cindy Fry, working on the pedestrian and bike corridor, moving the city's bike plan forward, and we want to support them and thank them also for that work. So there's a lot more that we can be doing. I know some folks have worked on these issues a lot in the past, but I'd encourage the Public Safety Commission and other folks on the council to get involved and work with us to make the streets safer. And we're available. I have information up here if anybody's interested. Thank you.
Thank you. William Moffett. Yeah, we'll have William go, and I'll come back to you. Great, thank you.
Hello, my name is William Moffett, 121 Heath Street, Hartford. I feel like in this past month, a lot of attention was on the Barone case, but I feel like that overshadowed another case that speaks to a lot of the issues within HPD and lack of accountability and a problem in their hiring practices. A Hartford police officer for 7 years, James Guzzi, was arrested 2 times last month. The first, he had a domestic altercation with his wife, despite an altercation that involved her getting an abrasion on her chest and falling on the ground. It got a protective order, but for some reason he was only charged with a misdemeanor disturbance of the peace, so he was suspended with pay. Another altercation happened that violated the order, so he was suspended without pay. This officer had 31 guns confiscated from his home. And if you look into his history, in 2008, him and his brother got into a drunken brawl in which James Guzzi hit a man in the back of the head with a gun. He was charged with a lot, including falsifying a report to the police. Yet this same man was hired by HPD He was hired by HPD. So when I look at Stephen Barone and his past indiscretions, and I think of the stat of the amount of domestic abusers that are in the police, and the fact that I don't think Hartford has a zero tolerance policy. This isn't a bad apple problem. If you look at a lot of concessions the city made within the police union, there are provisions like with annual performance reviews, the results don't affect the employee's pay rate, pay range, or job classification. As far as the personnel files and the history of discipline, documented counseling disappears from the record after 6 months, oral reprimands disappear after 1 year, written reprimands disappear after 2 years. Only complaints with sworn statements are investigated. Anonymous complaints are not. The amount of complaints against HPD have risen exponentially over the years. Barone already had a history of complaints against him before this recent thing. I don't know why James Guzzi was even hired. I hope that the hiring practices have changed. I fear that they have not. And I feel like there are a lot of officers who are not held accountable that bring a bad image onto a institution that I think is genuinely trying to reform. But I do not feel like the city has done what is needed to be done to hold these officers accountable, and until we change policies, this will not occur. I can't believe these officers are allowed to have a badge and a gun. Please, we cannot allow this to keep happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Burns, please state your name again and address for the record.
Hi, my name's Mark Burns. My address is 12 Park Terrace, number 4, Hartford. So I came here about the city closing down of an evening, what, 11 to 4:30, something. In part, I mean, I became aware of the situation through the Shell station. I think my friends here have spoken already, being closed, and posted a few things on Facebook. Didn't get much, just a few responses from some of the wild people in Hartford, Will Moffett included here, and but I'd like actually to make sure that this is addressed to, as I called him on face, Luke Empty-Face Bronin. I know, and hopefully the separation of powers and the strong mayor gives this council more authority than it used to have. But anyway, Luke Empty-Face Bronin, this is on public record now. Since you ignore Facebook, and since I know you must have some media person paying attention and choose not to ignore it, it all the more proves that you're an empty face. But nonetheless, so here's the thing, a number of things. First, in any democracy, representatives are elected, and representatives should know more than the people they represent and should make decisions based on that knowledge and authority, because that's why they're elected, because they choose to focus on these issues that people in the day-to-day may not have the opportunity to focus on. But nonetheless, in the end, all authority derives from the public, and for Lieutenant Powell and Mr. Emptyface to take away that authority and actually cede the streets of Hartford at night to the criminal elements, to give up, to lock the key on Hartford and say, I'm going home to sleep, and I'm giving the streets to the criminals until it's time for me to come back home, have my cup of coffee, and open up the city again, is malfeasance of office, is disrespectful of the public, and it's really disrespectful of the guy trying to get to work. The blue-collar people who these people know nothing about, the blue-collar people for whom gas is a necessary service in this world, in this country. And until our vehicles run on moonbeams and happiness, gas is a necessity. And if you're an immigrant family and you don't know how to call an ambulance, and you're trying to get your sick child to the hospital, and you're on E because you basically run your gas tank from E to like $2 or $2.37, which again, Luke Bronin and Powell cannot imagine, because they have people go down and fill their cars for them. They can't imagine this immigrant family not being able to get to the hospital because they spent their $2.37 doing something to try to avail themselves of some opportunity that the United States is supposed to offer, and they get to the thing and they have a sick child in the back, and the gas is empty, and their cell phone is on E because they've used up their cell phone minutes. Luke Bronin and them, they do not understand that situation. But please do understand that this is total malfeasance of office, and Dom and his friend who I've met, but I forget his name, have offered to hire security at this building. The moment that offer was made, the issue should have been off the table, because I know that security could work, because I've been at that gas station. I used to have a studio over here in Pratt Street. I live over there. I'd walk back and forth. I'm an artist. I just went, this is what my day is. My day that I'm late because I arose from resting for my day. My last day, because I'm in a show at Governor's Island Art Fair. At Governor's Island Art Fair, Portal, come see me. It's really great. Box Mover is terrific. But nonetheless, my day started 10 o'clock Friday evening, and it went to 10:30 Monday morning. That was my day. That was my day. That was my day. So there's times when I'm walking back and forth between my studio at any time of the day. Any time of the day. This is a 24-hour world, and any time of the day. And I walk by and I see people with their hoods up or looking for gas or puzzled. And you know what? And still, if you Google 24-hour gas. Hartford's supposed to be like a visitor town, right? Hey, let's have people come to Hartford. It's like a civilized little city. They come to town and they Google 24-hour gas station. You'll find that Shell station there. So you get off the highway and what? Am I running out of time? Is there a time?
You're out of time.
I'm out of time.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, anyway, if you
you.
Google that Shell station, you'll find it's a 24-hour gas station. And if you run over to that 24-hour station, or if you're at a hotel and you need to drive to the airport and you're out of gas and you try to go anywhere in Hartford, you know what? This city is saying, you know what? This isn't a city. This is a podunk, closed down town that the sheriff and the mayor have closed down because it's inconvenient for them to think about the fact that there are people out there that they don't want to associate with. So they're going to give up, lock the key on the city, go home, and open it up, and give the city back to the criminal elements. And one more thing, Luke Bronin, this isn't going to look good for you if you try to be governor. And what's going to happen to all the buddies of yours, the cronies that swill at your trough, if you lose your political ability to feed them swill?
Okay,
Please,
Mr.
wake
Burns.
up, Luke, and City Council, please take action on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Lucy LeBron.
What up, y'all? What up, gorgeous people of my city council? Y'all are my city council. I'm from Hartford. I'm a resident of New Britain Avenue, and I'm here to speak on behalf of Make the Road CT. There are some issues that have been brought to you not just once, not just twice, but numerous times. As we all know, we are currently dealing with a lot of families in need, and some of them have faced the trauma of surviving a hurricane. So I'll get to my notes. I'm a member of Make the Road CT. We've been coming for the past few months to highlight the stories of immigration and the Puerto Rican refugees. We thank Ms. Rosado for signing our letter. We thank Mr. Gale for meeting with us, and we invite all of the members to meet with us so we can share with you the information that we have found regarding some of the families. There are many families who have not yet been reached with the help that they need. So there are people who are working on it, and we need your support in offering the services that they need, specifically housing. We know that people cannot be stable if their housing is not stable. People who have had trauma from a hurricane, who have literally survived, have enough to deal with. They should not have another trauma facing housing here when we know that this city has been historically a welcoming city for immigrants, specifically for Puerto Rican families. We should be setting the stage for the nation on how to handle the issues. Many of them are our family members, and we do not all have the resources to help them ourselves. So we do need you to be on board with helping them, as the citizens, many of them have already helped as much as they can. We invite you to a vigil. The the 1-year anniversary is coming up from when Maria hit land. It's weeks away, September 20th. We will be meeting at Park Street, I believe, at Mercado. So we will be there waiting for you to honor the lives that have been lost and to recognize the families who are here who need that support. Housing is not the only trauma that they will face here or struggle that they will face here. Education in these schools will not be easy for them. Finding jobs will not be easy for them. Housing does not need to be an issue that we overlook. I thank you for your time, and we wish to meet with each and every one of you so we can share the information that we have gathered. I'm sure you'll be shocked at how many more families need that support, that basic necessity of housing.
Councilwoman Winch?
Yes, I just needed to get that, the date and the address, the date and the time, and the event is going to be on Park Street?
Yes, so Mercado is it's like a mini mall on Park Street. What's the address?
And the date?
770.
No, I know where it is. I'm saying the date and the time.
It'll be September 20th at 6:30.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
Thank you for coming out.
Thank you very much.
Mary Saunders?
And little did I know I'd be following my daughter. We surprised each other at this meeting, so. My name is Mary Sanders. I live at 184 Preston. So I guess for the first time, we're both testifying with different addresses, because other times we were both at the same address. Let me just touch on what other people, I agree with what Make the Road is doing, and I do encourage all of you to push for FEMA assistance, because that's what's called for here, you know, more so than municipal and state assistance, although as new residents to the city, I would expect them to be extended any courtesy that others coming in, but they are particularly eligible for FEMA assistance, which needs to be demanded from the feds. I appreciate David's testimony about being on the MDC and looking out for our water sources. I'm always concerned. I see what's happening in other states with drinking water supplies, and I'm concerned for ours here, and especially when I hear some of the stories, which I will go into. I am also concerned about what's going on as far as the police force. But the reason I'm touching on all these different subjects is because I want to make the connection that it's part of a bigger issue. And the issue is lack of accountability at the municipal level. Lack of accountability in regards to all the commissions that we have that are supposed to be functioning and overseeing the different departments here in City Hall, because obviously this body cannot be eyes over every department in City Hall, which is why you need the commissions. And I understand that there are more and more commissions all the time, right? So I'm here to talk about the issue of the Housing Commission, which I have been speaking on for probably 3 years or more since the Pliny Street fire, when I started coming in with some people from Community Party, David Samuels and others, that we were concerned about security bars on the windows preventing the escape in an instance of fire. So that was just one thing, but you know, as my eyes have continued to open over the past couple years about the different issues that are going on and the lack of accountability with the commissions and with the police review board and you know, all these good intentions when groups are established. I see there was, I did some research last week after meeting with residents of 183 Weathersfield Avenue that has numerous violations pending against it, as well as other places in town. And when I found out again about the Housing Commission not being staffed, being there, you know, after 2 or 3 years of the establishment, and I have a copy of the resolution from December of 2015 establishing the commission. Before that, there was a housing task force during the whole, 2014. The housing task force was supposed to continue meeting. 18 members of a housing task force recommended the Housing Commission. Joelle Cruz proposed that at the end of 2015. It passed unanimously, and the mayor signed it. So people have said to me a couple times, oh, well, that commission was established during the transition. The mayor hasn't had time to appoint anybody, any commissioners. So that would lead me to believe that the Housing Task Force continues to meet, right? Those other 18 members. But when I went to ask for meeting minutes, I was told there's no such group. There's no such thing as a housing commission until Sixto tracked it down for me and printed out the information. But apparently there's never been a meeting, so ultimately you guys are responsible for the health of housing, the health of housing in Hartford and the health of the residents residing in those buildings with lead poisoning, with infestations, with water dripping through the ceilings, with faulty plumbing, faulty heating. I know numerous people that are planning on facing another cold winter because they know that their heaters are not going to be fixed again. So I'm holding you all responsible for the health of people living in these apartments, and I hope you take this job seriously and make sure that commission gets up and running so we can have some oversight. 5 inspectors, over 4,000 complaints a year for them to investigate. There's a reason this isn't working, and these owners of these buildings need to be held accountable. Thank you.
Thank you. You have a question from Councilman Deutsch.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your presentation, Mary. Do you have opinion when there is a housing commission as to whether it would look at how the affordable housing is distributed throughout the city and whether it may deal with the new questions of downtown north, Dono, and that any proposal should or should not include affordable housing within the downtown development?
Well, the way the resolution or the ordinance is written, it says it's going to be made up of, equal numbers of tenants, owners, people, city officials, and then it's going to look at improving the housing code, which, if some of you remember, 3 years ago, I submitted a list of 15 recommendations to upgrade the housing code of Hartford so that would be in compliance with state code. And that's one of the things that this commission would be tasked with, as well as promoting home ownership, as well as addressing homelessness, and then it says, and any other issue that the group feels is related to housing and is important. So hopefully some of you guys would be the liaison to this commission and, could make sure that those things happen, because we do definitely need to replace some of the affordable housing that has been lost through the years, through demolitions by housing authorities or for other reasons that properties have been seized and their housing vouchers taken away for one reason or another. But there's buildings all over Hartford that are in really bad shape, and housing code enforcement is not happening. These owners are not being held accountable, and I don't understand how they're getting away with it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Ken Green.
Good evening. My name is Ken Green. I live at 223 Granby Street. A couple of points that I want to make just to follow up on some testimony that I did about a month ago in regards to the incident with Sergeant Barone. First of all, I'd like to just say that I appreciate that the citizens of Hartford come out to speak. A lot of times as I look at social media and I hear some criticisms from some folks, I believe that they would like for the citizens of Hartford not to speak up to the elected officials. I'm a former elected official, and I believe that it's our responsibility to make sure that we allow our citizens to speak up. If our citizens don't agree with us as an elected public official, that to me is more of the reasons why they should speak out. There are a number of other towns that their citizens go and they speak out and they're applauded with being participatory citizens in that town. But when Hartford residents do it, so for some reason people seem to think that we're negative, that we don't support our elected officials, that we don't care about our city. The reason we speak out is because we love our city. I'm a born and raised citizen here. I will say, as I said before, that I believe that Sergeant Barone should be terminated. I think his actions were intimidating and threatening, and that's not the kind of officer that I would like to see in the police department. That officer got demoted. That officer is still trigger happy, will get more money in overtime, but he just simply doesn't have the title of sergeant. What has changed besides the title? If the police investigation, the police chief and the mayor and the city council don't assure me of my safety with those who are supposed to protect me, then I believe we have a serious problem with the police department. The gentleman said earlier, and I believe that, and I said it before, is that the institution and the culture and the systemic racism and the systemic institutional racism and the law enforcement and those a large number of people in that field, their attitudes towards certain citizens, I think needs to be addressed. I believe the city council should call for a 2-year dialogue with the police department, city officials, and our citizens in a format similar to a Chicago dinner format, where you have small group discussions where you allow citizens and police and council people and elected officials to have some honest and open discussions about the attitudes that all of us have about either being citizens or being law enforcement. Law enforcement is not a us against them. It's not a when you criticize law enforcement that you're against law enforcement. I support law enforcement. I do not support violation of police conduct. I don't support the violation of human rights. I don't support being threatened by police officers. As an African-American male, I can't tell you how I felt threatened and continue to feel threatened by the kind of attitude that that officer emanated at that time. Because if you're not an African-American, if you're not an African-American male, I would just think, or Latino male, people of color in general, but specifically African-American male, I don't think you will ever understand where if you have an encounter with a police officer, that one of the first things you have to worry about is your life by simply being African-American male in particular. Our constitutional rights of freedom of speech, our constitutional rights of being able to own a gun, our constitutional right of due process was eliminated by this officer. If you look at and you hear that, the constitutional right of due process was eliminated. I can be the judge, the executioner, I can execute you, and I could do these things based on my power and authority. I think that I would like to support, I'm a social worker by profession. I would like to support officers. Officers, as well as anyone else in any particular job, have stresses. There are some particular stresses that officers have. The gentleman talked about an officer that was domestic violent. We heard in New Haven just this week about an officer barricading himself in a house and holding his family hostage, and this was a pattern. We hear about an officer in Texas that went to the wrong apartment and shot somebody. We hear about this. So instead of just being an us versus them, it needs to be where the officers are being able to talk to the citizens in an honest and open way, non-threatening, to say what is the solution so that we can all work together. I also just want to conclude by saying I do not understand and will never understand this process where the police can decide which businesses have a permit to open 24 hours, and I think these gentlemen in their particular position that we should eliminate that and let all these businesses open in 24 hours and have particular guidelines as to how they would be in violation of those guidelines to not be able to open versus the other way around. Thank you.
Former State Representative Green, we have a question from my colleague.
Mr. Green, you made reference to a Chicago model a few minutes ago. If you can forward a link to all council members of that, it would be greatly appreciated.
Okay. And I can tell you briefly, it's really just a way that's an organized discussion on a very specific topic, and it's a sort of adjustment-free, kind of solution-focused process to talk about the issues and hopefully come up with some solutions.
Thank you. Finally, for the evening, we have Derek Ware, who will be our last speaker for the evening.
Good evening, everyone. I wasn't prepared for this. I just found out about this, so excuse me for I'll let him set my time. I would just like to add on to what the gentleman just said. I can't believe we have a trigger-happy officer running around in my city. If I would have been one of the people that would said that, that would have been an automatic charge for me. Threatening and anything. But I'm not going to ramble about that. I just had a solution for that. Why would we leave him with any opportunity to be able to retire or catch a pension when we can just terminate him? If it was me, it would have been automatic termination. And I'm not trying to be selfish, but I'm just trying to protect the people that live in my city. My second thing to address is, I'm tired of these companies coming up here to the city with these fake solutions for new jobs when it's really hard to see. And maybe this is the selfish part of me, but I had to change my trade and my profession just because I couldn't find a job right here in this city. And that really hurts. My third thing I would like to address is address the false impressions that companies such as Dono, that they were going to come here and improve this North End and support and build up the businesses, when all I see is after the games or before the games is people come across the highway from wherever they're at, and then when the games is over, they jump right back on the highway and go to wherever they came from. I'm still to this day trying to understand, where is the support in that? All I see is that stadium just come so people from elsewhere can have a place to come here for a couple hours and say they came to Hartford, but then jump right back on the highway and go into the places they reside at. And it's hard for me to understand that. And last but not least, for the council members that's up there, I would like to ask, for the companies that come up here and say they got jobs coming for us, can I head one of the hiring events, or matter of fact, all of the hiring events? Because I want to see the new hires, not just hires, the new hires, so we can hold these companies accountable. Can I just say 10 more seconds, please? I just really want to hold these companies accountable because it just, I don't know if I'm going crazy or what, because the definition of crazy says a person that keeps doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. And it seems like I keep coming here saying the same thing, same thing, same thing, and still the outcome is still the same. Like, am I crazy?
You're right, you're not crazy. You're right.
And I just want to end with that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here and sharing your concerns and feedback. And for all of you listening in at home, we will now conclude our public comment for the evening, and will reconvene our regularly scheduled council meeting at 7 o'clock. Thank you. Okay, we're going to get started. If people can take their seats, please. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our regularly scheduled monthly council meeting. Of those of you joining us in the audience and those of you viewing at home, thank you. Mr. Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Bermudez.
Present.
Councilman Clark.
Present.
Councilman Deutsch.
Present.
Councilwoman Fox.
Present.
Councilman Gale.
Here.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Present.
Councilman Sanchez.
Present.
Councilwoman Thames.
Present.
Councilwoman Winch.
Here.
We have a quorum, Madam President.
Thank you. Can we please stand and recite the pledge? So I believe this evening we have a point of personal privilege by Councilman Arjo Winch. Uh-oh. Okay. Do we have a mic for the councilwoman?
You know, I feel like Patti LaBelle when she get up to sing. She always kick her shoes off. So forgive me if I don't say the last name right, but this evening we have a citation for Mr. Victor O. Ioja. Am I close? Come on. Come on. No, right here, right here. I'm gonna call you Mr. Vic. That's okay? Okay. Oh, Vic. Mr. Vic or Victor? Okay, whichever. All right. So Mr. Vic started his service career as a schoolmaster in the 50s and went toward the 60s. And he continued his college studies in sports administrator in Nigeria Sports Council. And as his career brought him to work at the University of Massachusetts at Amherst as director of sports in state government representing Nigeria. And whereas, although he retired from formal employment, Mr. Vic has shown his active interest in service for humanity as a Knight of Columbus, USA, a Knight of St. Malumba in Nigeria, and continued those services right into the residents of the city of Hartford. So this evening, Mr. Vic, the city of Hartford salutes you for your contributions and your exemplary dedication to the residents of our city. Thank you. And then we also welcome your family.
One word of thanks.
Yes, absolutely.
One word of thanks, please.
Yes.
When I was informed that I would appear before the council, my heart dropped. I said, what have I done? Who knows me? But I remembered one thing. My father was known by, my father, an old catechist, missionary teacher, in the good old days. He said, whatever you're doing, think of what's going to happen after that. And if you can think of what will happen after that, you'll be careful. And I have always remembered it. And I hope even the council here would remember that whatever they do, they think of what will happen after that. If you do good, good will follow it. Bad, bad will follow it. Like the scientists would say, the law of action and reaction. So I had it in my mind that I haven't done bad. I've always done good, as much as I know. And I know that good, the council is not going to punish me. They are going to give me something that will make me laugh. Thank you, the Court of General Council of the City of Hartford. Thank you very much, and I hope you will generate more thanks and more claps by what you do in this council. Thank you very much, and may God bless.
Oh, yep. Now we'll have Minority Leader Bermudez, who has a point of personal privilege as well. You want to do it from the floor, or? Okay.
Yes, point of personal privilege. Thank you so much, Council President. And we just want to thank, as Working Families Party council members, we want to thank our former state representative, State Representative Green, who is here tonight, and others who also spoke. But thank you so much specifically to State Representative Green, who really allowed us as a council body and also just as the residents of Hartford to think about what path do we want moving forward in reference to the incident involving Sergeant Barone. We want to send a strong message as council members, and we want to send the right message and do right by our residents who live in Hartford. And we feel very strongly about that and very strongly about having conversations, true dialogues in the community, so that as a community we can heal, but we could also see some action on the ground.
Hi, and thank you all again for being here and listening. I think some of us, and more than just the three of us standing here, cannot ignore some of the comments that were just made in the past hour. And that includes many, you would say, ordinary citizens, and certainly there are more elected officials than Mr. Green who may feel the same way as we do, that even if we cannot settle everything tonight, we must recognize the depth of not only emotion but fear that he and many others expressed, and the concern that it never happened again, basically. Now, there's another council member here who compared things to Ferguson, Missouri, and all across the country. We have written that up, you know, everywhere from California to Baltimore and everywhere in between. There have been some very nasty incidents, and for us to sit here as your city council and not say anything would be a bad mistake, we think. Not that we will solve everything tonight, and it would be a fine thing if 2 weeks from now we have another council meeting, although it doesn't have the public portion, but we address it not only with those young men who we think they and certain police officers showed restraint and a level-headed attitude. And fortunately, no one actually got hurt. Unfortunately, some of these men were charged with trespassing when if someone perhaps looked like me or looked like some other people, an officer might have said, well, you're on private property, why don't you just move on? Instead of busting them with a charge of trespassing, you see. So I think we won't settle it, and there are all kinds of opinions tonight. It's not just the minority party, which I think is speaking for the majority of people in the city. This will not be the last time that we will do it, and if people from the neighborhood, including those young men and maybe young women, speak up along with us, whether they be state representatives or city council members, we speak up together and not just have a selected handful, you know, who think they'll make all the decisions for everyone's good. So I think we're saying that we're recognizing the importance of the situation. It's life and death. And that we will continue in 2 weeks, and 4 weeks, and 6 weeks until we have a meeting of the minds, respecting those officers who also kept a level head, you know, and some of them, again, acted on behalf of everyone to cool the situation a little bit. And fortunately, those charges were dropped because of the fact that nobody wanted to have that kind of nastiness here in the city. So I've said plenty, but to recognize that what was said tonight won't be in vain, and it is our responsibility. It's our job to recognize it in one way or another, and we must continue every meeting as long as it's necessary. So.
And I just want to echo my colleagues by saying we see you, we hear you, and we're ready to fight for you and with you.
Thank you. I just want to echo my colleagues' comments as well and just state on behalf of the entire council, I think we are all committed to getting at this underlying issue that we have with the culture of our police department. And I think now is the conversation of how do we move beyond, as Minority Leader has suggested, with intent, thoughtfulness, and implementing strategies to continue to mitigate and drive that culture change. And I think there's a lot of best practices that are out there, as State Representative Green mentioned earlier, of communities that have dealt with this, that have implemented various strategies that we can actually learn from and implement here. And I think as a body, we're all committed to that, and those are the conversations that we've been having and that we will continue to have, and working with our police chief and the administration, again, to get at the overall culture. We know that the Hartford Police Department has done a lot of really good work in building community trust and community relations, and this was a very unfortunate situation, and I think everybody was extremely disgusted and disappointed by those remarks. But how do we now move beyond this and really get at the underlying problem in the police department? Because it's not, you know, the entire police department, but you do have a fraction that we need to continue to work on and work through as a community, and I think we're all committed to doing that. So I know you will be hearing more from us with respect to working in partnership with the police department and administration. So thank you. Councilman Clark.
Thank you, Madam President. I believe that collectively we all can work together no matter what our party affiliation is, whether it's Democrat or Working Family. I believe that all of us that saw the video was very grieved and vexed at the same time regarding this incident, and we do believe that there needs to be some type of action taken. We may defer as to what the corrective action is, but we recognize the fact that it is a systemic issue that has plagued our police department for many decades. And so we really need to take a look at the diversity makeup, the climate in the police department, and also to the culture that currently exists to make sure that it changes for the good. So that means that recruiting more Hartford residents, more black and brown people into our police department, as well as making sure that the command structure of the police department reflects the entire city of Hartford, and that means at this current state that it does need to change. But I'm looking forward to speaking and working with my colleagues, and we had mentioned the fact of doing I believe Representative Green had referred to the restorative justice model, and so this is something that I'm looking to work with my colleagues and see what the administration is going to do regarding that, so that we can move forward, but make some immediate change, and that's what we need to be focusing on, is immediate change.
Thank you, and as you all know, Councilman Clark is co-chair of the Public Safety Academy, along with Councilman Sanchez. So that will wrap up that conversation. There's more work to do, but again, there is definitely motivation and commitment to continue to change the culture, not only in Hartford, but there's a bigger national conversation and issues that we all are committed to. So thank you in that regard. So now getting into our agenda, I will now hand the floor over to Majority Leader.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from August 13, 2018 meeting.
Second.
A motion has been made and properly seconded. Mr. Clerk? No objection? Okay, Mr. Majority Leader?
I'd like to make a motion to place the following items on the consent calendar. Item number 1, JNRB grant. Item number 2, Kenny hiking grant. Item number 3, summer meals. Item number 4, NCAA meals, grant. Item number 7, data integration grant. Item number 14, activation through arts. Item number 15, transfer of taxes. Item number 16, Riverfront Park. Item number 24, opportunity zones. Item number 27, the tree crew. Item number 28, the bike racks. And item number 14 has a substitute resolution.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez.
Yes.
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Deutsch. Councilwoman Fox.
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Thames.
Yes.
Councilwoman Lynch.
Yes.
Pass.
Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
I'd like to make a motion for the following items to be received. Item number 11, which is the PDH report number 1. Item number 12, which PDH report number 2. And 13, the pool security.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez.
Yes.
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Deutsch. Councilwoman Fox.
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Thames.
Yes.
Councilwoman Lynch.
Yes.
Pass.
Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
I'd like to make a motion to refer the following items, of which I will let everyone know to what committee is going to, and then I'll have my colleague, Minority Leader Councilwoman Bermudez, read the description. Item number 5 is going to the quality of life and public safety. Item number 6 to the Operation Management Budget and Government Accountability Committee and to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Hearing date is Monday, October 15, 2018. Item number 8 to the Quality of Life and Public Safety Committee. Item number 9 to the Public Works, Parks and Environmental Committee. Item number 10 item number 18, and item number 25 to the Legislative Affairs Committee. Item number 26 to the Planning, Economic Development, and Housing Committee. And item number 27 to the Public Works, Parks, and Environmental Committee.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Minority Leader, you have the floor.
Item number 6, authorization to provide the Connecticut Department of Transportation with 3 temporary easements across 100 Columbus Boulevard and 10 and 80 Reserve Road, and a permanent drainage easement on 1020 Weathersfield Avenue as part of Connecticut DOT's I-91 construction project DOT. Item number 5, authorization to accept a grant of $189,922 from the U.S. Department of Justice to pay for police overtime expenses associated with criminal investigations, targeted enforcement, and greater police presence. Item number 8, authorization to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Connecticut Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection to allow the Hartford Fire Department to utilize a statewide land mobile radio network. Item number 9, confirmation of the mayor's reappointments of Jack Hale, Charmaine Craig, and Mark Fisher to the Tree Advisory Commission. Item number 10, confirmation of mayor's appointment of Frederick Douglass Knowles II as Hartford Poets Laureate for a 3rd-year term. A selection process was carried out by Commission on Cultural Affairs. Item number 18, appointment of Victor Luna to the Charter Revision Commission. Item number 25, resolution asking for the Court of Common Council to engage its own attorney and to select members of the Charter Revision Commission to consider, among other issues, the roles and responsibilities of the Corporation Council. Item number 26, resolution requiring that housing and mixed-use development projects receiving city assistance include 20% affordable housing units, living wage provisions, and a community benefits agreement. Item number 27, resolution requesting the reestablishment of the Public Works tree crew, which was previously eliminated from the budget.
So we need a correction.
Councilman Gale.
Yes, thank you, Council President. Just one correction to that list. Item number 9 was to be on the consent calendar, and so I make a motion, I believe without objection, that it be removed from this motion and put on the consent calendar and approved therefore.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. No objection, we're fine, doesn't require a vote. So now going back to the original referred items with the exception of item number 9. The motion is on the floor and has been seconded properly. Is there any discussion on the referred items? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll. Another correction, we already consented item number 27, so just disregard that as well. So again, with the exception of number 9 that we're consenting and number 27 that was already consented on, the motion on the floor is for the remaining referred items. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez.
Yes.
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Deutsch. Councilwoman Fox.
Yes.
Councilman Gale. No. This is referred. We're good.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Councilwoman Rosado.
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Thames.
Yes.
Councilwoman Winch.
Yes.
Pass. Okay.
Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
I'd like to make a motion to postpone the following items until the next city council meeting scheduled on September 24, 2018. That is item number 17, item number 19, item number 20, item number 21, item number 22, and item number 23.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Any discussion? Councilman Gale.
I just want to note that, as I know there's some folks in the audience that have a particular interest in item number 23, I think, I just want to note that that will be on the council calendar for approval on September 24th. And it's simply a timing matter that didn't allow it to be voted on today.
And it was voted out of committee favorably.
That is correct, Madam Chair. It's been to committee, it's been voted out of committee favorably, and it will be on the council agenda September 24th, correct?
Thank you. Any other discussion on the postponed items? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez.
Yes.
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Deutsch. Councilwoman Fox.
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Thames.
Yes.
Councilwoman Winch.
Yes.
Items are postponed.
Great. Thank you. And seeing no action items, that concludes our agenda and meeting for the night. So thank you all for joining us in the audience and viewing in at home. And we will see you at our next regularly scheduled meeting. Thank you. Adjourned.